What is up, guys? Thank you for tuning into my channel. Today's video is going to be editing live. So I know I can't live stream right now because I don't have enough subscribers, but I'm going to do this all in a pretty much rough cut. So I actually filmed part of this video yesterday and realized I should probably throw in one of my photos because I did it where I had some of my followers submit photos and I edited a couple of them. The video ended up being 41 minutes, so unfortunately I had to cut some of that down, just because I don't want to make this too long for you guys and drag it out. So I figured I'd do the first two photos that my followers submitted, and then I'm going to do this one right now, which is my photo. So I just wanted to jump in here in the beginning of the video and say thank you guys for tuning into this video. I hope you guys get something out of this. I'm trying to include as many tips and tricks as I can and make it very easy for you guys that are maybe just starting out, or even maybe someone that's advanced. Maybe I show you a trick or two you weren't aware of. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy the video. If you guys do enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Bye, guys. Since these guys sent these in from Instagram, I'm going to keep it this orientation. So this one looks like we got an Audi. I believe it's an A3. Could be wrong. Black car, green foliage. Looks nice. Bagged, decent wheels. BBS is very, very nice. Nice sharp image. So let's start off with the basics. Exposure I usually don't touch right away. We'll do a little bump here. Highlights. Don't really got to mess with this much as this is exposed properly. I'm a big fan of underexposing my images and then bumping up anything, like including the shadows in post. So for shadows, we'll bump this up a little bit. Then here we're going to check this. Black. So we're going to just add a touch of texture and clarity here. This does not need any dehazing. Usually I'll use dehaze in a brighter lit situation. This, since it's not very, there's really no overexposed areas besides this right here, which I'll correct later. Just trying to get the base exposure. We are going to bump this up a little bit just to bring out a tad bit more color. Vibrance, we'll go 10. Saturation, we're going to leave that at 0. I'm not going to touch much on the tone curve because this can get super confusing. So for now, all these images, we're going to leave it just like this. I also think this is great because that way, anyone that's just getting to Lightroom, this is kind of a daunting thing, learning the tone curve. So we're just going to leave that just as is. Color in the HSL tab, this is huge. So this is going to make a big difference in the images. With greens, I tend to go a little bit more towards yellow, but because of this one, there's not a ton of colors besides the green and the black. We're going to keep that green. We're going to keep saturation just about where it's at. We might bump up the luminance just a tad on that. Yellows, let's see, do we have any yellows in here? We have a little bit. We're going to put those a hair towards the orange hue. Let's see, we're going to drop purples a little bit because I'm seeing some purple cast on the car. Same with magenta, let's see. Doesn't really make much of a difference. We'll drop this down just a little bit more. Split toning is huge. I am a terrible person when it comes to trying to describe what this does. It's one of those things where I comprehend it, but I guess when it comes to teaching, I'm not very good. I'll try to dumb it down to the best I can. With this, for the highlights, so highlights are anything that is white or bright. When you do this, you could hold down the Option key on Mac. I don't know what it would be on Windows, but you can see here there's different hues. And so by doing this, that will change the highlights or those bright areas to cast that color. And then saturation is just how much you want it to be. So if we do 75, you can see it's just, holy crap. If we go down here, just do a little bit like 10, just gives a nice little warmth to the image. And same thing goes for the shadows. A lot of times I tend to do this. I do blue in the shadows, kind of in between like a darker blue and the teal. And then I'll do this. I'll just put both to 10 and see how this looks. Looks okay. We're getting somewhere. We'll do a little update right here and see how we're doing. So it's coming together. We gained a lot of the details in the grille and the wheels. It's got a cooler tone right now. We're going to get around and mess with this, but so far so good. We'll take it. Down here, sharpening. This is totally dependent on your camera body and lens setup. We'll do that. With the masking, same thing. If you hold Option, you can see where this is doing the fine tuning for the sharpening, because you don't really want it over the entire image. I tend to crank this pretty far down just so that way it really just optimizes the details. It's not just totally sharpening and making it look like an iPhone photo. Always have these selected, so it looks like this was shot on the Sigma 51.4, which is an absolutely wonderful lens. My upcoming video, I have what's in my gear, and the Sigma 51.4 is probably my favorite lens I currently own, so big ups on that. Super, super sharp. As you guys can see, it's just razor sharp. And this was shot at f2, so love it, love it, love it. It's ridiculously sharp. So in here now, we're going to play around with this. What do we want? I think we're going to go with a slightly more greenish tint to it. With a lot of these sliders, guys, like I said in my last video about the 7 mistakes, it really comes down just to playing around with these. There's no right or wrong. I'm sure I have a preset that will look great, but that defeats the purpose. So we're just gonna mess around with these sliders a bit. This will be a longer video, so hang in there, guys. I'm gonna try to put in as much informational tips and tricks and whatnot that I can. I almost like this, but it's kind of looking a little weird. Do a little bit there. So this goes back to also what I said in the other video, is that learn to work with colors, not mute them. So I did this with the purples just because there's nothing major in this photo that has any purples. So I'm not really hurting the image whatsoever. This is just, a lot of people can use this to remove chromatic aberrations, but this photo I didn't see any. So it's just removing the slightest bit of hue that was kind of casted on the road. Now let's mess around with the white balance. Some people do this first. I tend to try to get a good baseline and then go in, because a lot of times it just changes. So I think we're gonna, honestly, where it was at looked good. Tint, we already messed with this a little bit. I think honestly where it was looks good. So now comes the fun part. Now that we kind of got the colors that we're looking for dialed in, we're gonna start playing around here. See, we're just gonna crank this bad boy, shadows up. Now, typically I say do not overexpose the sky, but because there's such a little bit of the sky showing, I'm not overly concerned about that. Now here with the balance, you can shift this and it'll change more of how prominent the highlights or the shadows are with the colors. We're gonna leave that at 0 for now. I think it's not bad right now, but it definitely is missing something. So let's go to the blues here, see how that looks. So I'm not gonna lie, I am a fan of losing some of the blues here. So instead of just absolutely toasting them by desaturating, we're gonna do -15, and we're actually gonna boost the luminance here, because that'll bring it a little bit more in the details. Honestly, we could do -20. We'll do +10, and that's looking good. And then we could play around here and see. So I'm not a fan of that. That goes too purple. This doesn't look all that bad, but I think right about there is looking good. So this one, I can't tell if they used a polarizer or not. So if I were shooting this, it's hard to say. I don't usually like shooting by a bunch of trees or foliage because it tends to cast a ton of shadows, especially on black vehicles. So I probably would have had the CPL, which they might have, but it's hard to tell. It would have been casted right here over the hood in the front windshield. Otherwise, if you have a tripod, you could have done a double exposure. You could have done one with this and one on the side, because it would have completely eliminated any shadows on the side. Little trick that I don't use all the time, but you can, is you can actually almost fake like you have a CPL. You can just drop your shadows and put it over the windshield. Now, this is a case by case. It's not going to work every single time. See, like in this situation, it's not doing a ton. So we did dropping the shadows, and then I also dropped the exposure. We'll do -0.4. You don't want to go overkill on this, because otherwise it'll look really fake and exaggerated. Same thing, we're going to try this on the side and let's see how it looks. I'm more concerned about the window here just because this area is so bright. I don't really want to mess with the door all that much, so we can drop the highlights. That looks a little bit better. Don't want, like I said, guys, you don't really want to go overkill. So we'll leave it like that. Let's check and see how it's coming along so far. So we're getting there, making progress. It's looking good. Definitely it's popping. You can see the separation. So let's keep moving on here. Now another thing that I like to do is really exaggerate the details. So I forgot, can't use any of the presets, even the adjustment brushes. So ignore that. We're going to do plus 20 here, 20 here, and then texture we'll do 5. And then what we'll do is we'll go in with the grill and use the adjustment brush and just really kind of push these out a little bit. Now with Instagram, because it's going to compress the photos, you might not really be able to see this, but it is, I think, a nice touch. So if you guys notice, it looked great on the grill, but down here it's almost pulling up too much. So I'm going to just get rid of this. We're going to do a new layer, and we're going to actually get rid of the shadows and just leave the highlights and the texture. And that looks good, but let's see what -10 on the shadows looks like, and then bump up the highlights. It's not bad. Let's try this. We'll stick with that. I think that works. Still emphasizes the grill, but yet we're not getting all that detail of what's behind the mesh. So we'll do this one here. Boom, looking good. Same thing for the wheel. The wheels are exposed properly. Love this fitment, by the way. Tucking hard as hell. So now we'll go in here. We'll touch this up. Just hit it with a little bit of that. We'll bump the shadows. Let's say 15. Boom, makes them pop. White, let's go 15 since it's a silver. There we go. That's looking good. And then that's starting to come together. Let's see if we bump the whites up even more. I'm liking this, but I think we need to play with this a little bit. Let's make this a little bit more yellow versus orange. All right. See, it's funny when you start messing with the colors. Now I'm almost liking this more. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Do you guys prefer the green being more towards the teal or more towards the yellow? I don't know. For some reason, I think because this image is a little bit cooler, it's working with it more towards the teal. So I'm liking this. What else can we do to spice this up a little bit? Oh, I want to touch that, but I don't want to overcomplicate things. Let's bump up the saturation just a tad. So this is looking pretty decent. If we want, what I can do, it's because the car is a little blue, we can use this tool right here, which is the Radial Filter. We can cast this over the car. And this will add just a touch of warmth, makes it feel a little more at home and connected with the background. This is looking pretty decent. Again, I like this. I think the only other thing I might do is I might take an adjustment brush here and let's try to neutralize the color of the ground. So we'll do -20 and we're going to warm it up, I think, just a tad. Now we're not going for perfection here, but I'll clean it up just a tad. Can't be lazy for you guys. So then I'm just bullshitting you if I'm cutting corners. Also, shout out, let me pull it up, make sure I give credit to who sent these in. I am sorry, I can't believe I forgot to say that. I believe this one was sent in by, oh shoot, I gotta check. I believe this one was sent in, I'm gonna put it at the end, guys. I will give credit to everyone. Actually, I'll put it up on the screen. That's what I'll do, is I'll put it on the screen who sent these in. Because respect to them, I appreciate you guys sending them in. So I think this might be about where we leave it off. I mean, I'm digging this quite a bit. We could try to bump the exposure just a tad. Another thing I personally like to do is have a little filter coming in down here just to add a little pop of contrast. So here we'll do a little bit of dehaze. I don't know, it just helps draw the viewer's attention to the car. Sometimes I'll do this from up here, but because there's not much going on, there's not much to recover, I'm gonna leave it at that. So this is pretty decent. I don't want to spend too much time here for you guys messing with the colors, but I would say this is a pretty complete image. I'm a fan. This is a good shot. Again, the foliage or the trees casting the shadows is tough, but no, I think this looks good, and it's all personal preference. Now, for shits and giggles, guys, I'm gonna mess with a preset here that I have. I have 50, I think 7 presets. So let's actually see if I have one that looks real good on here. So again, we're gonna crop this 4x5 for Instagram. All right, let's see what we got going on. I'm gonna go to the most recent ones. And here we go. Okay, that one has potential. Let's see if any other ones really pop out. So what I tend to do is take a preset from every shoot I do and save it, just because odds are I'll have similar weather or similar lighting with the same color vehicle. Oh, funny enough, this actually kind of looks like what we just did. Wow. So I think, what was it, 54? This one has potential. So I do like this. Let's see here. We got that. Bring this down. Now this, the blacks are a tad too black, so what we can do is just bump this up a little bit and boom. Then what we could do as well is go in and do the same thing I did with the grill. I'll do that real quick. This one's gonna be a little sloppy, but boom, go in here, touch this up. And I mean, I would say that right there with just what? That was a couple clicks, guys, and that's looking damn good. So boom. I'm a fan. That actually looks dope. So yeah, that's why I save my presets, just because I can use it even on photos I don't take. Look at how good that worked. And I know what you're thinking, Evan, sell them. Nope. Watch my other video. If I were to sell presets, I'm not helping you guys. You have to be original. You have to come up with your own stuff. But, so there's the preset, and then let's see what it looks like. Ooh, do that there. Oh, wrong one. And that. Both look good, honestly. This has a more brighter vibe, but that's a good photo, man. I like that. That would be post-worthy. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, how that one turned out. I'm a fan. Now this is cool. I'm a big fan of this. I could already tell this is going to be a nightmare to edit. One, it's slightly blurry, which, you know, it happens. But the reason I'm saying it's gonna be a nightmare is because this right here, not the kid, but this purple, like, I don't know if it's a haze, it's a reflection. I don't know if it's like a chromatic aberration, but nonetheless, very unique shot. This is cool. I would almost want to crop this as a story. Like, this would be a great story post, because stories, it just absolutely kills the quality, so you would never be able to tell that it's a blurry roller or not. So let's get started on this one. I don't know, I'm kind of liking the moody vibe of this with it being dark, so I don't think I'm gonna mess with the exposure much right off the bat. What do you guys think? I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of this. I think this one's going to be a lot more of a color adjustments or fine-tuning the HSL tab. I don't think it's going to be much of adjusting the exposure, because this looks pretty darn good. So same thing with the greens. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to drop names. We've all seen someone that does their greens like this and it looks goofy. I mean, where in the hell is the grass ever this like minty green? So yeah, we're not gonna do that. Maybe a tad of bump there. That looks good. Teals. Teals are always one of those tricky colors where it's either there or it's not. There's not much in between. So if you guys can see this, I'm totally desaturating it and there's virtually no difference in the image whatsoever. So that means there's probably not much prevalent. So we will adjust the luminance and I see no difference. So that doesn't do anything for me. We'll leave that there. Now let's see what happens if I do the purples. Yep. You guys see that? Yeah, that's weird. That has to be like a chromatic aberration. But you guys can see it's not all the way gone. So then we'll go to magenta and see if that removes the last final bit of it. And you can see it's messing with this kid. I think it's a kid. His face, all of a sudden, boom, his skin tones are gone. Now, no one's going to be able to zoom in and see this. So for the sake of the video, we're just going to leave that at completely desaturated. Now, I know I'm going against what I'm saying with people just desaturating colors, but for this, it doesn't affect the overall image. I mean, this is just focusing on this tad bit of an area. Now, you can go in there with like the radial filter and like select those colors and just mute those. I'm trying to keep this short and sweet for you, so you guys get the idea. That looks a lot better. Or what you could do, actually, you could do it one of two ways. You could do it the way I just showed you, or we could go in here, do the radial filter, and we can just fully desaturate, not fully, but like, what do I have it at, 65? Let's see. And we really want to make this tight here. Let's see, we'll do that. And we'll also try to warm it up a bit. And we can stretch this over the entire windshield just so that way it looks uniform. And as you can see, still retains some of the skin tones, not that it matters, and pretty much all of the purple is muted and gone, and that way it does not affect the overall image as well. So that works. We'll go with that. Highlights here. I think this one we're gonna go for a somewhat warmer feel compared to the last image. We're gonna do both of these warm because I think this is gonna look freaking awesome. Okay, that might have been too much, so we'll do 5 here. All right, I am liking that, but we are gonna mess. No, I don't know if the exposure is the right move. That's the beauty of editing, guys. I mean, this is totally like way out of my element with having a shot like totally under the trees. I always tend to have an open backdrop or nothing where light is really, there's no conflict with the light coming down on the vehicle. So this is a unique shot. I'm digging this. Let's do the basic stuff first. We'll do that. Now, some of this is going to be repetitive, so I do apologize on that. But it's good. Repetition is good because this will kind of get it drilled into your guys' heads. Down here, let's see. Yeah, I'm liking that. So real quick before I do the rest, let's see where we're at here. So not a huge difference so far, but I don't know. It's starting to pop. The colors are coming together. They're livening up. So let's keep it rolling here. Yeah, that looks good. Ooh, ooh, okay. Now we're talking. This is giving me some like Halloween vibes. This is cool. Actually, you know what? For the sake of the video, let's make this. Yeah. Okay. Now look at the difference we just made there. That's a pretty decent jump already. That looks so good. That totally gives me like fall/Halloween vibes. Yeah, we're cooking now. Next up, let's focus on the car. Notice how sharpening almost made this look sharp, or it almost made it look like it's more in focus. Now, it could just be, let's see, does it say which camera body this was taken on? I don't know if it does. So it was shot at ISO 125, 24mm f5, got it. 130. Thank you for not using a ridiculously extreme shutter speed. This is the perfect example of an appropriate shutter speed for a photo. You still get that motion blur, and it just looks good. I don't think this is actually a blurry roller. I take that back from earlier, guys. I think it's just because the megapixels. I don't think this file, it's probably a 24 megapixel camera. So when you start trying to pixel peep at 300%, it's just not gonna be all there. So I take that back earlier. My apologies. I think this actually is a proper sharp roller. So now, you know, we're gonna do something. I don't ever do this, but how does it look if we, nope, not a fan of that. I was gonna say we could try to brine this area up, but then it just doesn't look good. I'm kind of digging this one, guys, to be honest. Sometimes less is more. So we'll touch it up a tiny bit, maybe a little bit more contrast. I mean, this image already has a ton of contrast. We can mess here with the white balance and see. So this looks good. In my opinion, this is a little bit cleaner of a white balance. This looks very real. Yeah, that looks good. So even though the Halloween kind of feel looked good, this looks sweet. This gives me like a Need for Speed or like a James Bond vibe. I don't know. I love rollers. That's the thing, is they just tell such a story. It's true, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. Like, who knows what's going on here, but this just looks so cool. So I think we're gonna stick with that. That looks really cool. It's not over the top. I mean, we could really bump the shadows up here, but then it just starts to get too much, too busy. So I think that's where we're gonna stick with that. Now again, let's see if I have a preset that'll look good. That one has potential. That could be cool. We'll remember that one, 57. That one also, that one could be good. That one's really dark. I don't know. 57. That one's kind of cool. Vibing with that one. I think this one. So we'll go up here. I'm just gonna get rid of that. Not loving this one. This one is a little wonky on the colors for this specific image itself. We can try to save it here. That doesn't look bad. That's pretty neat. So I would say I would still do some more fine tuning on this one, but that does look good. That's a pretty significant jump. So we'll take that. All right. Thank you guys for making it this far. I know this is definitely one of my longer videos, but I'm trying to give as much information and insight as possible. So let's get into this one. This is a photo I took now, gosh, this has got to be 2 years old. Beautiful. It's an S14 with an S15 conversion in the front. This thing is absolutely nuts. His name is Johnny's from Colorado. Love this car. Every bolt is titanium. I mean, this is probably the best build I've ever seen in person. No expense spared. So the reason I wanted to do this one is because it's a totally different like atmosphere when it comes to shooting in pitch black areas. I mean, there's not much lighting going on here. This is all handheld. This shot in particular was shot at ISO 320. This was on my 35mm f1.4 at 1.4 and at 1/15th of a second. And this was with my A7R2. So let's see here. We're gonna start with the preset because again, I know this video has been going on now. We're probably at the 30-minute mark, so I don't want to keep you guys too long. But let's see if we got something that'll be a decent starting point. So shooting at night, you know what? We'll start with this one, even though it's extremely blown out here. This one's gonna take some fine tuning, that's for sure, but you know what? We're up for the challenge already. Boom. We're already getting somewhere, right? So feel free, if you guys pause it, you can copy this preset. Granted, it's not going to work in every scenario, but that's already looking pretty darn good if you ask me. The sky here, you can see it's got some colored noise, so we're just going to do this here, make that dark again, because we don't need to see all that stuff. Okay, we don't want it too black, but enough. Perfect. We'll do the same thing on the ground here. So one thing you guys will notice when I do that and I darken it up, it almost becomes more blue. That's because, remember guys, with the split toning, I typically have the shadows with a blue hue. So anytime that you decrease the exposure anywhere in the image, that's with shadows, it's going to have a slightly bluish hue. So let's go look down here and see how this is. Yep, that's what I figured. So we're going to turn this back to 0 because his underglow, I remember in person it was more of a darker blue, so this is closer to what it was rather than this. You can see it was just slightly toned down, so we'll keep that there. Let's see how this looks. Sorry if you guys hear my dog in the background. She sees another dog outside the window, so she's making noises. But I mean, already I would argue this is probably getting close to post-worthy. So do you guys see that? All those little chromatic aberrations, even though I have this turned on right here, it doesn't do the best job. So what we can do, like we did earlier, is let's see what happens if we do this. Alright, so that helped a lot. And then we can go over here, same thing. Look at that. Gone. Now, let's see how that affects this, because I guarantee it does have a slight effect on the piping, because it's all titanium, which if you guys are familiar with titanium piping, it changes all sorts of colors when it gets hot. So it does make the slightest bit of a difference, but I think it's worth it. What you can do is come back in with the adjustment brush, bump up the saturation, and just go over this, and it will bring back any of the color that you got rid of. But this way it's not super spotty and you have tons of chromatic aberrations. So yeah, that looks good. Wheels look great. At 1.4 you're only going to have a slim margin of the car in focus, but this one did hit perfectly where I wanted it to on the headlight. And I mean, I'd argue this is pretty post-worthy. What we can do is turn this down a little bit. We can actually do that, because I think I want this to be a little bit more cool. So let's try the white balance at 2650. Bingo. Straighten this out a little bit. And right there, I'd argue that's it. So super easy, super simple. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure I've already said this in the video, but please drop it in the comments. If you guys like this segment, maybe we can turn this into like a weekly or monthly upload where I only do your guys' photos. I'm probably going to set up a Google Drive or a Dropbox, so that way it's a lot easier than you guys having to email them to me. And also that way I'm going to have it probably in a link or a story on my Instagram, or a highlight, excuse me. So that way you guys at any time, if you take a cool photo and you want me to edit it, I can. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really hope you learned something here, and I appreciate everyone that stuck through this video. This is definitely my longest video to date, but I think there's a lot of good information in here. I am going to probably make another video sometime in the future going over like 5 tips or tricks and doing like a little bit more of a faster paced video for those that don't want to sit through a 40+ minute video. But nonetheless, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all your support, and I hope you guys have a great day. Later.
10 toes touchdown, that's real talk. I've been really heating up and yeah, I'm still hot. I don't never get the feels, but she real hot. I might pull up in the whip and let her peel off. Got a skirt for the money, I don't know about you. Where the kid cutting on the